MSC is a very polarizing cruise line that people seem to either love or hate. I'm about to wrap up my first ever cruise with MSC, and it's definitely very different in many ways compared to other major cruise lines like Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, and Princess. From white parties that go to dawn to a rowdy outdoor crew lounge you can hear from forward cabins, I'm going to explore the 20 biggest differences I noticed so you can decide for yourself whether the cruise line is for you. If you're booked on an MSC cruise or considering one, you're not going to want to miss this. Hey cruisers, Andrew from Ottawa, Canada here. Welcome to the Chill Cruiser, where I review cruise ships from a chill perspective. I'm coming to you from my very green cabin on the MSC Seaview in Palma, Spain. I've been on more than 40 cruises with most of the North American cruise lines, but never on MSC until now. MSC has a very mixed reputation based on all the videos I've seen and the subscribers I've spoken with. People either love it or hate it, with very little gray area in between. After being on board for 6 days, I get a bit of a sense as to why. There are parts of the experience that are very similar to other cruise lines, but then there are many others where they're very, very different. I think it all depends on what your expectations are and whether you've cruised before. I'll give you an example. I bought the one-device internet plan because based on my experience on other cruise lines, you can use any device as long as you're using only one device at a time. If you try to log in with a different device, you get a warning that they'll deactivate the other device to enable service on the new device. Well, on MSC, they really mean only one device. So once you've activated your internet plan on your phone, you can only use the internet on that phone and not your laptop or tablet. They didn't make that very clear when I was activating the service, so I spent close to an hour troubleshooting, trying to get the internet working on my laptop before I finally found out from the internet team that you can't use more than one device, and you can't ever change the device for the balance of the cruise. And if you do try to log in on a second device, they'll lock you out of both devices, and you have to go to the internet team to get them both unlocked. When I finally gave in yesterday and opted to upgrade to the 4-device plan so I could get some work done, they said it was too late since there were less than 3 days left in the cruise. There's also a bit of a contradiction in the experience. In many ways, MSC is very much an anything-goes cruise line, but in some random areas, they have very strict rules. You can smoke in pretty much any outdoor area, and they keep the white party going as long as people are dancing, even if that's until dawn or later. But if you want to bring a drink into the theater, that's a no-no, and they stop you. They have a crew lounge on the bow of the ship that I can see from my balcony. It gets pretty loud there, and I've heard them singing and laughing with my balcony door closed well into the night. That is very much anything goes compared to the other lines where there's a very strict separation between crew and guests, and a venue like that would be buried deep within the crew area of the ship, far away from earshot of guests. But when I was in a steakhouse specialty restaurant and tried to get my leftover steak wrapped up in a box to take to my cabin, they wouldn't let me for health and safety reasons. It's very strange. There are many more differences that I noticed that I'll explore to give you a better idea of the MSC experience. Before I do, I should mention that there are different classes of service on MSC. Bella, which is most rooms, Aurea, which includes more amenities like room service, and then there's the Yacht Club, which is a first-class ship-within-a-ship concept like the Haven on Norwegian Cruise Line. My experiences are in the third Bella class, but I'll try to point out differences when I can. I'll walk you through all the differences I noticed according to the categories I use in my ship reviews, like cabins, vibe, and entertainment. Let's start with planning. Number one is that many MSC ships have similar names. I'm on the Seaview, but there's also a Seashore, a Seaside, and a Seascape. And when I was researching the ships, I got them all mixed up. So pay close attention to their names when you're planning and booking to make sure what you see is what you get. Another thing I noticed is that drinks are very expensive. A Diet Pepsi costs €6, which is close to $10 Canadian or $7 US. That's crazy, even for a cruise line or hotel. So it makes a lot of sense to get a drink package before the cruise when they usually offer big discounts of up to 40%. I don't know if that forward crew lounge is on every ship, but I would definitely avoid forward balcony cabins just in case. Another difference is that MSC hasn't completely modernized their muster drill. You need to go to your cabin at a designated time to watch the safety video, call a number to confirm you've watched it, and then everyone has to go to their designated muster station at the same time. This is much more strict than other lines where you watch the video and go to your muster station anytime you want in the first few hours of embarkation day, and then you're done. Moving on to the vibe of MSC ships. Many of the public areas are very glitzy, with Swarovski crystal stairs in the main atrium that everyone wants to take a picture on. Another example of the contradiction or juxtapositions on MSC is you walk from these very bright and themed spaces into very dark corridors to get to your rooms. One of the biggest things I noticed during my cruise is that almost everyone is traveling as part of a large multi-generational family with kids. Lots and lots of kids. This is very much a family cruise line with a lot of kids running around, and there are very few spaces dedicated to adults. They have the outdoor section of the promenade, but there were never any chairs or loungers whenever I checked. Smoking is also allowed in pretty much any outdoor space, which is very different than most other lines where smoking is restricted to a few small zones. Let's talk about the cabins where you do really notice a difference. In terms of decor, there's nothing neutral about it. It's very green. Green carpet, green couch, and green curtains. And I've seen other ships focus on a particular color, like red in the cabin. Another thing that stood out right away was the cleanliness standards. My couch was full of tears and very visible and disgusting stains that on most other cruise lines, the couch would have been replaced or at least cleaned a long time ago. When I mentioned it to guest services, my cabin attendant put a sheet over the bottom cushions and gave me a bottle of Prosecco. There are also less in-cabin amenities than some of the other lines. So no Kleenex, no face cloths, no body lotion, no free on-demand movies, no free room service, and no evening turn-down service. Moving on to food. This was the busiest buffet I've ever experienced. There were people everywhere, and it was often hard to get a table. The food selection was average, but the pizza and some of the pasta was very good, which isn't surprising since MSC is run by an Italian company. Other than gelato places, there were no casual food options that I could find with light meals like sandwiches or soup, so the entire ship had to go to one of two buffets, with only one of those buffets open for dinner. I tried the Butcher's Cut Steakhouse specialty restaurant, and it was very good. They offered amazing service and food, but I found they're a bit sneaky about extra charges. They ask if you want sparkling or still water. When I ordered still, I assumed that just meant regular tap water, but they charged me. I thought appetizers over and above what's included in the prix-fixe option were 50% off, but they weren't. I could only finish half of my steak and was hoping to have it boxed to bring to my room, but they wouldn't let me, as I mentioned, because of health and safety regulations. I thought that was bogus since you could take food out of the buffet without any issues. Moving on to activities and entertainment, this is definitely an area where MSC excels. It seemed like there were production shows and parties of some sort almost every night, and they rival Norwegian for knowing how to throw a fun deck party. I mentioned the white party going to dawn. They also threw a great disco party, with the activities team acting as go-go dancers on 3 different levels and glitter falling from the ceiling towards the end. The technology in the ship was average. I mentioned the limitations of their internet package. I found the internet speed was below average and often non-existent. You also couldn't get a paper copy of the daily program anywhere. But when you went to find it in the app, they gave you a QR code. So I guess they expected you to get it through a second device. The only way to access the program that I could find was from the Wi-Fi login menu on your device's browser. Last but not least was the casino, which was similar to most ship casinos, except it was 100% smoking. Because of its location in the middle of a heavy traffic area, the bar was always very busy at night, so it could be a bit frustrating to get a drink while playing. But the casino hosts and slot technicians were some of the friendliest I've seen at sea. So there you have it. Those are all the differences I noted during my first experience on MSC. I hope it's been helpful. Essentially, it's a budget-friendly way to travel with your family with several quirks. I don't think I would sail with them again, but I'm also not their target demographic. Speaking of budgets, after 40 cruises, I figured out a lot of ways to save time and money when I travel. Don't miss my video with my top 10 tips here. Thank you for watching, and happy cruising.